Hello my beautiful friends, it is Mimi here today and I'm super excited to be here today because today's video is very special. It's a super personal Q&A video. I told you guys last night actually, to ask me really personal questions on Instagram, and so many of you have. And I just sort of went through all of them and picked out the ones that were frequently asked or really interesting. So that was the category. I tried to pick the ones that many of you asked, and there were so many questions that a lot of you repeatedly asked. So that was one category. And also if there was any interesting question that I liked, I picked that as well. I have a lot of them here because you guys asked so many interesting questions. So I'll try to breeze through them. And there's a couple of dogs barking outside, so I might have to wait for them to calm down. But I will definitely do my best. I'll try to breeze through them, but I know I love to talk and some of them might take a couple of minutes to answer. So, okay, let's get started. I think it's safe to say that the most asked question ever at the moment is, are you planning to have a second baby? When are you having the second baby, another baby? So I think if I just answered this one question, a lot of you would already feel gratified for watching this video. So I am going to start with this question because so many of you, literally, it was every third or fourth person asked this question. So, am I having another baby? Am I planning to have another baby? I will explain right now. I think it's just important to remember, or just for me to remind you guys, that Alex and I were married for about 5 years when I finally decided to, have a baby with him. And when I say I decided, it's a mutual decision. It always was, but it was important for me to make the decision because ever since Alex and I started our business, Luxy Hair, and we were in a financial position to have a child, which was like pretty much in the first year of starting the business. So pretty much as soon as we got married, we were almost right away in a position to have kids. Alex said, babe, I'm ready, so just whenever you're ready. And of course, for guys, mostly, it's easy to say that because they're not the ones who are getting pregnant or carrying the baby for 9 months, giving birth, then breastfeeding if they choose to, and then taking care of the baby like full on if they choose to. So he said, yeah, babe, whenever you're ready. And it took me about 5 years to feel like I'm ready to commit, to be responsible for bringing a human being into this life, into this world. And, after about 6 years of being together, we had Alexa. Not being together, we've been together for more than 6 years at that point, probably 8 years we were together, but 6 years married together. That's when Alexa was born. Now we've been together for more than 8 years. Alexa's over 2 years. She just recently turned 2 years old. And am I at a point where I feel like I want to have another child? To be honest, I'm not, because it took me so long to feel that way, to have a first child, because I have this immense feeling of responsibility if I bring a human into this world. And not to say that other people aren't, of course, but I just feel like I have such a strong sense of responsibility that it is hard for me to outsource any part of parenting, or most part of parenting. For example, obviously, I had some help in the beginning. I had a housekeeper in the house who helped me 0 to 1 when Alexa was smaller, which was like the best thing ever because she helped me with prepping food, grocery shopping, cleaning, all these things. But I was still doing all parenting stuff. So basically I was breastfeeding. I still am breastfeeding, by the way. I was for Alexa all the time. I was with her 24/7. So anything that had to do with the baby, I was doing myself. The housekeeper just helped me to do housework, which was again amazing for me to be able to focus on being with Alexa and being super present parent. Or whenever, let's say, my mom or Alexa's mom is here, or when we're traveling with them, they're just there to spend the time with Alexa, but not like do my work as a parent. So I am just full on as a parent. I'm not sure I can be any other way, but I am also this way in any relationship. I feel like when I get into a relationship, I go really deep because for me, having a child is not like putting a check mark. If I have a child, it's important that we have a very strong, deep relationship. And for that reason, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of commitment to build that relationship. It doesn't just happen one day when they're 7 and you're like, oh, now I want to spend time with you. It happens now, especially in the most important part of their brain development, which is 0 to 3. It's really important for their brain development, obviously to be really involved as a parent, 0 to 6, but especially 0 to 3, because 0 to 3 is that very vulnerable time where they're just absorbing everything. And I have my own philosophy on how I want to raise Alexa, and for that reason it's just impossible for anybody else to do that work for me. I need to be there all the time, 24/7. It just never ends. And I've been loving obviously this experience, but it is a full-on experience. I almost don't have any time for myself or any time for like being with my friends or doing something creative. Like Alex is out with her right now so I can film this video, you know. It's just like, it's just full on all the time. There's colds, there's teething, there's potty training, there's always something new. And can I imagine adding another child to this equation? Is it going to make my life easier or harder? I just know that it's going to make my life a lot harder if I add another human being. And then also splitting myself between the two, and then also having a relationship with my husband. There's just so many factors that you realize when you have a child that you are responsible for these factors. So for that reason, I'm just not in a place where I feel like I have to give. So for that reason, I'm just trying to like go into all the areas that make up such an important decision. For me, it's a really, really important decision. I can't just like be like, oh, let's just have another baby. It doesn't work like that in my brain, in my reality. I know everybody's different. Some people have 5 kids, some people have 10 and 20. I really haven't got a clue how people do that. I just think people are different and they take parenting differently, and that's just it. So for my style of parenting, where I am very full on, I'm not ready to have another child, and I'm not sure if I ever will make that decision. So to summarize this very long story into short, at this point in my life, I'm not planning to have another child, but who knows what happens. Now, the second frequently asked question, to my surprise, was birth control. So many of you guys asked what kind of birth control I'm on, what would I recommend, birth control, contraception, birth control, so many of you asked. So I'm gonna address it. It is a very personal question that I don't believe I've ever talked about in a video, but I feel very comfortable sharing it with you guys. So the only birth control I've ever used, was condoms, the good old condoms. And the reason to that is that I'm extremely paranoid, and not paranoid, but just skeptical when it comes to pills, any types of pills. Even when I gave birth to Alexa and I was in so much pain, they gave me like bags of painkillers to take home, and I didn't take one. So I never ever take any medication unless I really have to, like maybe if I'm like dying, but thankfully that never happens. So if I'm ever in a pain, I try to deal with the root cause and not take the pills that are more medicated. So homeopathic stuff is okay with me. So the pill was never part of my reality. The pill was never even a question for me, because I would never take something internally that could potentially have side effects, have any kind of effects on my body. I just like couldn't ever even consider that. So I was never ever on a pill personally. I know a lot of my friends who were on pills and had a lot of issues, which just reaffirmed my personal choice of never going on a pill. And then the other type of easy contraception is condoms. So that's the only one I've ever used. There's so many great condoms that feel like you have nothing on. And yeah, that's what I personally would recommend. I've never ever had any scare moments where I thought I was pregnant. So all these years in my relationship with Alex, only use condoms, and they have been pretty safe. And the time when we decided to have a child, we stopped using a condom and we got pregnant. So I can say that obviously even with condoms, there's always a chance something would happen. But in my life, in my personal experience, it's been very, very safe. I know a lot of you guys have recommended, I think in the past, I can't remember which video it was, but Alex and I did some video where a lot of you guys were, I think it was like the best thing about pregnancy, and Alex said that it was not using a condom. And a lot of you guys then recommended certain books or apps where you can track your time, where you can not use any contraception. I'm sure the stuff works, but I just wouldn't take the risk. As you guys know in the first question, I feel extremely responsible about bringing a human being into this world, and I just don't want to take chances. So if it happens, of course I'll embrace it, but I would do my best to make sure it doesn't happen unless I'm really ready to bring a human being into this world. So yeah, Okay, so this was an interesting question. Hey Mimi, are you planning on getting any tattoos? If yes, what would it be? I actually almost got a tattoo. I have a little scar here on my hand from cooking, I think. It was baked potatoes or something, I can't remember. But I have quite a lot of scars on my hand. So I was thinking to put a heart and then put do love, be love, something like that. It had something to do with love. This was like years ago. And I even made an appointment to go to see this tattoo artist in California. We were, I think, in LA at the time. I can't remember. I think either he canceled, something happened that he couldn't make the appointment. And I just remember sitting in the car and I was like, I'm not going to reschedule, you know, I don't think it's the right time. I never booked an appointment ever since with any other tattoo artist. However, once in a while it does cross my mind, and I think I could probably put a little heart somewhere here on my hand because I already have scars. I might as well cover them with something cute and something that is obviously meaningful to me. So if I ever were to get a tattoo, it would have to be something that means something to me, that brings me joy, that brings me good feelings when I look at it, and something that I would never want to remove from my body, because so many people get a tattoo and then they're like, oh, I don't like it, and then you have to go through the removal. So it would have to be something that I know for sure I wouldn't want to have on my body for the rest of my life. So another very interesting question. In general, I got a lot of sex-related questions. You guys are so cute. What are your thoughts on sex before marriage? Should one wait or do it when one feels ready? So my personal opinion, of course, everybody can do whatever they decide to do based on their personal life choice. But in my humble opinion, I think when you're getting married, it is such an important step. You're committing yourself fully to this person. And if you're gonna commit, you wanna commit for as long as possible, right? Nobody knows what's gonna happen, but you're committing for good, in your mind at least. You want to make sure that you really know this person. And intimacy, again, to myself, is a very important part of a healthy, happy relationship. So in my personal choice, decision, of course, I would have sex before marriage because I would want to know that we have intimacy, that we have chemistry, that it works and it clicks and there's sparks, or there's that, you know, there's just that connection. Because there are times where people don't do it and then they get married, and I've heard hundreds of stories like that. Okay, not hundreds, but dozens for sure, where people don't do it and then they get married and then it just doesn't work, and then they try and try and try, and then eventually it's just the marriage ends up falling apart. So do your best to find out the person in any possible way before you get married, because once you get married and you have all that paperwork, like, you don't want to go through a divorce. It's a very traumatic experience, so it can happen to anyone regardless of whether you have sex or not. But do your best to avoid that situation and not be in that situation at some point in your life. So personally, I will definitely say get to know your partner as close as possible before you get married. Another frequently asked question was about Alex and I fighting. So do you ever fight? How often do you fight? Do you fight? Do you fight? Like, so many people asked about that question. And I'd like to rephrase the question, because I don't look at it as fighting. Because fighting is something to me that's more like where you throw plates and you're like fighting each other. We have arguments all the time. Not so frequently recently, but I would say in Alexa's first year, when she was just born, and then maybe after 3 months, there was a lot of changes to our relationship because, like, we didn't have time for each other. We were just getting used to this whole new experience of being parents. So I would say from 3 months, so 0 to 3, it's like honeymoon. You have a baby, you're like, oh my God, it's amazing. And then after 3 months, you're like, okay, like, we have to have a routine. Like, this is our new life, and let's figure out how we're gonna have time for each other now with this new dynamic. So there was a lot of new arguments, but even before Alexa, obviously, we had arguments always. And I think it's such a healthy, important part of any relationship, not just your relationship with your partner, your relationship with your siblings, friends, your parents. I have arguments with my parents all the time, because to me, a true, real relationship is when you are straight up with your parents, siblings, your partner. You tell them how you feel. You're honest, you don't just kind of stay on shallow level. If you stay on shallow level in your conversations, of course you can avoid the arguments and the fights, as many of you prefer to call them. But if you avoid all these arguments, eventually you're still not happy. You're still like resenting certain things about your partner or about your relationship. And one day you are going to explode. So do your best to not get to that point. Address whatever you have now in the present moment. So if you have an issue, and this is a rule that Alex and I had, maybe we decided in the first year of our relationship, even before we got married, that anytime we're gonna have any issues, we're going to address them right away. We're not gonna resent each other. We're not gonna let it build up until it's at a boiling point of 10. But if there's something small that pisses you off or that you don't appreciate, just tell them as soon as possible. So it's been working out really good for us. You know, I would say we're not perfect, so sometimes it's not the right time, especially now with having a child, but we choose not to ever have arguments in front of her. So then you have to like make a mental note, like I need to talk to him about this, or I'm sure he makes mental notes to talk to me about something. And then when the right time hits, as soon as possible, you know, that evening when your child is sleeping or when you have some quiet time with your partner, you address the argument and you work through it. So communication is truly the key to any happy, healthy, successful relationship. How do you feel about working from home? But then the rest of the comment cut off because, you know, on Instagram, you have such short space to ask the question. So how do I feel about working from home? I personally am a super extrovert. I remember doing my test on my personality, and I think I'm like 98 or 97% extroverted. So I, generally speaking, do not like being at home, period. So the last 2 years haven't been easy. I would say the hardest part of parenting for me have been being at home more often, or like almost all the time. And for a child, I believe it's so important to have a boring, predictable routine, and they need to spend a lot of time at home. So obviously I've made that choice to put Alexa as priority and spend a lot of time at home, but it's been really, really hard for me to be at home all day long. It's just like really drives me a little insane to be at home all the time. And obviously I worked and I work now when she's sleeping. So now in the evenings, because she's no longer napping, or sometimes she has a quiet time and that's when I'm working. We're having a meeting in the other room, but it's usually like 30 minutes because she doesn't really sleep anymore. So I do work from home at the moment, but Alexa just started nursery for 3 hours, 3 days a week, which is not really 3 hours because I have to drop her off and then pick her up. But even so, I have like 8 hours to myself in a week now where I can do work, and I'm so much more efficient now ever since I had Alexa. So I can be out of the house a little bit and create more, work more, just have a little bit time to myself. So I'm really looking forward to that because she's just started Montessori school and she's really loving it, and I'll be more and more out of the house as she grows up. So I'm looking forward to that. How are you feeling about going braless in public? So it's an interesting question. I would say, I guess if you're asking about me personally, I have zero problem going braless in public. I'd say before I had an issue going braless. It's kind of interesting. A lot of issues we have with ourselves, we judge in others. So before, when I would see a woman that was braless, I would be like, ooh, this is so provocative. Like there would be all these judgments in my mind about why they're doing it, that they're trying to get attention, and all these judgments, like I would never verbalize them, but I was aware that I'm passing them in my mind. And then as I got older, I guess, I became more and more comfortable in my own body. I go braless all the time. Sometimes I'm wearing just bulky sweaters, so obviously nobody can see my nipples. And other times maybe I'm on holiday and maybe some people can see my nipples, but to be honest, I don't really care because I've embraced and accepted my femininity. And I've noticed, so obviously ever since I've accepted it myself and I can do it myself, I never ever judge anybody else for doing it. In fact, I feel like that person is very comfortable in their skin, not person, obviously woman. I look at it and I'm like, good for her. Like I don't even think about it. I'm just, this is completely normal. Especially living in Europe, people, you see that quite drastically. People are a lot more comfortable with their bodies, with nudity in general, with going braless for women, with going topless on the beaches. It's a very common thing to see here. And yeah, I feel completely fine about it. Okay, so this is an interesting question as well. Well, obviously all of them are interesting, that's why I picked them. The question is, why did you decide to move to London? Are you planning to move again in the future? So Alex and I decided to move to London many years ago now, more than 5 years, or probably 6 years ago. We've been in London for more than 5 years now. And we decided to move here purely for lifestyle because we loved Europe. We always knew, both of us knew that at one point we're gonna live somewhere in Europe. And London was just an easy choice because everybody speaks English, the weather is nice and mild, and it would just be an easy transition. And what we thought is actually what it was, because now we've been here for so long. I can't even believe it. I can't believe it. I can put on a British accent once in a while, but I still have my half Russian, half Canadian, half American accent. People think here I'm American because they kind of put me in that category. But why did we move here? It's because we just wanted to experience the European lifestyle. We wanted to travel more because here it's so easy to travel. 1 hour, 2 hours, you could be in Spain, Italy, France. All the places that we love going to all the time are literally at our doorstep, at our, you know what I mean. So that was the reason. And would we consider moving somewhere else? So that has actually been something Alex and I have been talking a lot about recently, in the last year, I would say, and we're definitely thinking we're going to move somewhere, but we're not in a rush at the moment because Alex is still very young. We're not gonna do it probably like this year, or I don't know when we're gonna do it, but we're definitely talking about it. And we have a few options that we're thinking about, but I can't tell you guys more because we haven't decided anything yet. So anything I would be talking about now is just pure speculation. So there's just a lot of talk about it. We're very excited to just experience more places in the world, like experience living in more places in the world. And obviously when you have a child, you have different priorities for lifestyle as well. So yeah, a warmer place would be very nice. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, I'm gonna try to answer 2 questions really quick and sort of wrap it up. Have you ever suffered from eating disorder? Please, I request for you to make a video on this. I have suffered from eating disorder when I was really young. I think I was about 12 years old. I already had my period at that point. And I remember dreaming that I would be like a top model, like a runway model, but I would measure myself like every few weeks, and I stopped eating at one point, and I wouldn't tell my mom that I stopped eating. Every time she'd give me food, I would just like throw it in the garbage or just not eat it, hide it somewhere. And it got to a point that finally my mom noticed it, but also it got to the point where my period stopped coming. So like I didn't get my period and my mom realized what was happening. It wasn't happening for too long, so maybe like a month or so, like not too long. But I really wanted to be a model. Like I really believed I could be a model. Like I'm so short. But at that point, I didn't know I'm gonna be so short. I'm not short, I'm like 5'5", which is, I'm 5'6" actually, I'm 5'6". But anyways, I stopped growing and my dreams crushed of being a runway model. But my mom just told me like, you're crazy. If you ever wanna have kids, like you better start eating, because if you lose your period, you're not gonna be able to have kids. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna start eating. So for me, it was very easy. Like I just realized I did something to my body that altered something, which was like not getting my period. And I freaked out and I realized it's just not worth it. I need to eat. And I switched back to eating normally like I did before. And then I'm gonna connect this to another question that came right after, which is, do you ever feel fat or uncomfortable in your own skin? I would say, for the most part, I feel very comfortable in my skin. I've never felt so comfortable as I do now in my skin. Well, I'm 32 now, so if you guys are younger, trust me, with age, hopefully, you will feel more comfortable. I think it does come with age, but I know so many people who are older and still don't feel comfortable in their skin. So obviously it's not a given. I do a lot of inner work, which makes me not attached to material possessions or even my physical body or things like that. So I enjoy my body, I enjoy the material possessions, but I'm not attached to them. I don't believe they are who I am or they make me who I am. So if I were to lose everything, I'd still be Mimi the same way. Like I wouldn't be of less value, if you know what I mean. If I'm skinny or fat, I'm still the same Mimi. I'm still the same value. Same with material possessions or income in my bank account. So once you have this realization and awareness, you just accept yourself the way you are today. And that also actually helps you to grow and improve your body if you're not happy with it. So do I ever feel fat? Of course, there's still days where I look at myself and I'm like, oh, like I could like really work on this like rolls in my tummy, because obviously, like, okay, to some people who are watching me, I'm skinny, but like there's still things I want to work on. I think it's a human thing where we want to improve what we are, regardless of where we're at. We want to improve. That's just in our human nature. So like sometimes I'll sit down and I'll have these rolls and I'm like, oh, before I had a baby, I still feel like I had a flatter stomach. So like things like that still do cross my mind, but do they make me unhappy? Absolutely not. I'm happy with myself. I accept myself the way I am today, but I also know that it's in my power, if I want, to have a better shape or less rolls or more toned body, more fit body. It's all within my power. Feeling as a victim or disappointed in yourself or victimizing yourself doesn't help you to get better, doesn't help you to change your current situation. So it's pointless, and I just don't go there anymore. Okay, I'm gonna do this last question, and I really think I need to wrap this up, but there are so many more questions that are here that I really wanted to answer. So if you guys would want me to do another video, let me know. Or there were a lot of questions about Alexa that I'm just not gonna put in this video, or like parenting, not just Alexa. Let me know if you'd like me to do a separate parenting Q&A, and I'd be happy to do that. But the last question I'm gonna talk about is, will you ever consider fillers or Botox or any kind of enhancements? So as of right now, I'm completely natural, no fillers, no Botox, no anything in my face that is enhancing it, except for just creams and things like that, like moisturizers. And recently I started using vitamin A. So I do want to improve the elasticity of my skin, obviously, as I am getting, what's the right word? As I'm accumulating years of life and experience. So it is not something I'm against. I know so many people that do Botox even in their late 20s or early 20s, which is so early to even do anything to your face. And fillers, just so many people do things to their face nowadays. I feel like it's a very common thing, and I just don't know enough about it personally, and I don't feel like I would resort to that unless like I really would have to. I always try to do the least amount, as I said, even with pills or things like that. I just want to do the least first and see how that works. So like right now I'm using vitamin A. I just started, I'm literally on my 3rd week. It's been great so far, but I'm gonna do it for 6 weeks. Then I'm gonna see my, it's like a skin specialist person, and I'm gonna see her, and then she's gonna tell me what else I can use on my face to like help myself, you know, preserve the youth. And that's where I'm at right now. Again, at this point, I just don't know enough, and I don't care to know enough to get any more. But most people I've talked about, because I did try to get research on these things, they say that things like Botox, especially, like you do later in your life. You don't need to do it in your 30s, 40s maybe, like not now. And I do believe that as we're growing now, a lot of us will have a lot more options when it comes to skincare to preserve and look more youthful as we age. So if you want me to talk about my journey with vitamin A, I will probably address it, but I want to have more experience so I can talk about it from experience and not just the initial excitement. So I'll do that probably later. And that is it. I think this is it. I'm like, my throat is so dry from talking nonstop for like 40 minutes. And that is all today. Let me know how you've enjoyed this personal Q&A, and if you'd like for me to make more, if you'd like me to do a parenting Q&A, let me know as well. Give this video a big thumbs up. It would totally make my day. Then make sure to ring the bell. Is that what they say? Subscribe and hit the bell so you get a notification when my video goes live, and you can be the first to watch it. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. I love you very, very much. So excited I had this chance to chat with you and get a little more personal. Have a wonderful day. Mwah! So many kisses, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye. To feel the way you feel, but so you know, even if I don't quite understand.